Get to the same slide. Welcome to the Organizers Playbook Lightning Talk, Iterating Together, Finding, Sharing, and Improving the Resources for Brigades. Next slide. Okay. We call it the BOP. It's formerly known as the Brigade Organizers Playbook, though. So let me tell you a story. Shrouded in the mists of Code for America Brigade history, after the primordial soup of the first dozen brigades, some of the brigade visionaries, or perhaps just one, distilled what worked and how to replicate some of the organizing actions that they took. Which brought us to the PC era, pre-COVID. No, let's go back. Pre-COVID, when my fellow National Advisory Council members and I voted to make the playbook relevant for current operating challenges. Little did we know. Fast forward a month post-COVID, Thad and I had agreed to champion it on behalf of the NAC. Will Pfeffer became the CFA network team liaison, and we started recruiting a team from Hack for LA. Questions were created, program was designed, and UX researcher training has started. That brings us to present day. Thad, I think this is you.
Yeah, just to remind all the other co-presenters to unmute. So the scope of the current BOP covers daily and strategic activities of brigades, represented as these topics, and ranging from hosting hack nights, lean app development, fundraising, to creating a local brand and strategy. This document exists. The future BOP, as we evolve, this brigade community, we want to really reflect on how we're evolving and to see how we want to see the BOP grow to mirror the lived reality of what our brigades are dealing with today. And so we want to include real world examples from across brigades and bring in new topic areas. Here's a few new topic areas that we're thinking about.
Each brigade in the network has something to share or learn from. And so we need a system for surfacing those learnings in a methodical way so that people can use them. And to capture those learnings, we will be canvassing the BOP end user, AKA the brigade organizers, through structured remote interviews. And the goal of these interviews is to discover what each brigade needs an example for, and to identify models that brigades have that they can share. We know that there are challenges brigades are facing at the moment. And so as assets become available, we want to make them accessible. We will be cataloging usable examples gathered from the interviews and making them publicly viewable via spreadsheet.
And we don't just want to present the survey results, we want to publish insights into what drives priorities, and for that to serve as the basis to inform future iterations of the BOP. And we're all very aware that each brigade is different, so our analysis and reporting will reveal what is truly valued across the network, and we'll be taking into account the size of the brigade, from the small to the large, the length of the leadership, and the region of the country, to create a set of priorities that represent the collective good while also identifying the unique needs. And we need and very much look forward to your participation. So brigade leads, UX researchers, have been trained and are on standby to start interviews with you as early as Monday, 9 AM Eastern next week. And we're offering those first interview times to any brigade lead that has attended this session. And after that, we'll be sending out follow-up emails to all leads. To UX researchers, we're also looking for more UX researchers to help and to join our next training on the 27th. And to the project team. So if anyone is interested and experienced in the synthesis and analysis of survey data or graphic design and layout to help make our data more accessible, we'd love to have you on the team. So please do reach out to us via the CFA's Slack channel. And finally, just move to the next slide, thanks. Just as the title says, the project outcome will be achieved by iterating together. And that means on the ground, having a working cross-functional team, which brings together a range of skills and experiences in project management and in user experience. And we'll be iterating throughout the project with key stakeholders, with the NAC, the CFA, and the Hack for LA and Civic Structure teams. And all our project management, the milestones, the methodology, and recommendations will be shared. We are 100% open source. And the very essence of this project is for the benefit of the community. And we really look forward to your participation.
Thanks, everyone. That's what we've got. I think we're ready to go to questions and answers for the last few minutes that the first session has. And once again, this iterating together effort is sort of UX interviews with all of the brigade leaders from around the country, all these places behind me that are shown. And so if, like I'm showing on the screen, we'd love for you to interview with us if you're involved with running a brigade. Otherwise, feel free to pose any questions. We put many hours into thinking through what these questions should ask and sort of doing a light touch scan of the network and all of the things that we might want to share and making that available.
I have a question, if I can. This is Gio.
Sure, I see another raised hand too.
Okay.
Gio, go first, and then Jess, I think it's Jess.
Yeah, so I joined CFA fairly recently, and I'm still wondering, I mean, the brigades are a great concept, and I think this idea to coordinate more across them, it's great. I didn't find a brigade to join yet, because locally I didn't find anyone or any interesting one. So I was wondering whether there is an idea also to have some sort of grouping people or coordinating people based on interest, whether it can be, you know, the topic interest. Perhaps, you know, there are people interested in municipal council versus Congress offices, or technical skills. Maybe, you know, there are a bunch of SQL developers that don't really feel to focus on a local project, but they would like to be able to contribute across cross brigades contribution.
We've only got 2 more minutes left, so
yeah, we have to go really fast. Jess, can you put your question forward so we can at least capture it and try to answer both?
Yeah, I dropped it in the chat, but I was just curious if you wanted to talk, or at some point, I'd be interested to hear about how you're thinking about sort of membership as a group, and if ideas around sub-segments or how you're kind of thinking about that in terms of like need for this.
Bonnie, do you have thoughts on either of those?
I do, and I want to answer the question in the chat, Jay's question as well about can brigade co-captains join together? Sure, but I think they would be better served if we interviewed them independently, because that might actually reveal more about what they prioritize and what they see are the assets. In answer to your question, Jess, about the different needs of the brigade, we're basically asking 2 questions, but there's a lot of follow-up questions and questions around it that will help to kind of identify how priorities are different inside the network based on how long you've been in leadership, you know, whether you're a small brigade or a large brigade, you know, those things will basically help to frame things, because there's no one set of priorities, right? There might be one priority that we all agree on, like maybe we all agree on fundraising, right? But maybe small brigades have like this need that they're not getting met, and somebody else knows how to do that thing, and if we can bring those parties together through these, you know, sharing of these assets in a disciplined and a moderated way, we can help them all, you know, get that service. But I think it's going to be kind of that it's going to be some really hard quantitative, qualitative analysis. And we're looking forward to people who have that kind of experience joining the team so that we can do it in a methodical way.
Thank you, everybody. So a reminder, I posted the discourse post in there. I've also got a notes doc. That discourse is a good kind of like central spot. I linked over I ported over the links that Bonnie shared here too. So thank you so much for presenting. We're gonna hop on to our next one. Keep it lightning fast. Renee, did I hear that you were coming up next?
Yes, I'm prepared. I'm gonna put
right.
links to the text I'll be reading from and my slides here in the chat so you can follow along. This is my first time ever screen sharing. Okay, I think that's a success. I hope. And
good.
then, okay, great.
Yeah, hit the present.
Great. Okay. So my name is Renee. I'm a community advocate and peer support specialist here out of Orlando. And I'm presenting on supplemental security income. So what is supplemental security income? The Social Security Amendments of 1972 led to the creation of the Supplemental Security Income Program, which is a direct payment cash assistance program for qualifying applicants. Here's that bill's elevator pitch. Building on the present Social Security program, it would create a new federal program administered by the Social Security Administration, designed to provide a positive assurance that the nation's aged, blind, and disabled people would no longer have to subsist on below poverty level incomes. The law defines disability as the inability to engage in any substantial gainful activity by reason of any medically determinable physical or mental impairments, which can be expected to result in death, or which has lasted or can be expected to last for a continuous period of not less than 12 months. So it's important to note that though the Social Security Administration has its own legal definition of disability, an ineligible determination for SSI does not invalidate an applicant's conditions as disabling from a clinical standpoint. Rather, it should be understood that the Social Security Administration, the Social Security Administration's legal definition of disability is conceptually rooted in an inability to sustain gainful socioeconomic activity. Inherent stigma within legislative policy itself, numerous program complexities, and huge administrative burdens on applicants all create barriers to this assistance for millions of disabled people. Complications like these create what critics and advocates alike call poverty traps or welfare cliffs. While critics often assert the very assistance of a safety net as the reason poverty persists, advocates point to a centuries-long pattern of moralizing economic productivity instead. Our own codification of disabled or impoverished people into deserving and undeserving of help hasn't evolved much conceptually from England's 1834 New Poor Law. As recipients, my disabled children's Medicaid eligibility is tied to their SSI eligibility, which, due to the way my income is counted as an SSI ineligible parent, isn't as reactive to changes in our household as their Medicaid eligibility would be without the SSI link. But the cliff effects specific to SSI still present exceptional challenges to the socioeconomic well-being of recipients and parents, spouses, and caregivers of recipients. Policy limits income, savings, investments, property, and in-kind support from several sources. Worse, certain fixed dollar limits within these policies do not receive a cost of living adjustment every year. The asset or savings limit, set at $2,000 for a qualifying individual and $3,000 for a qualifying couple, hasn't changed since 1984. Far more shocking than that, the $85 income disregard, which exempts a portion of income from counting against the benefit allotment received, hasn't been changed since the program began in the 1970s. In order to navigate all of these pitfalls of the safety net, I had to make my own budget and eligibility monitoring tool. Conventional budgeting tools cannot account for all the financial realities of safety net applicants and recipients. Eligibility screeners rarely give to-the-dollar answers, and most ignore supplemental security income recipients entirely, since they're built to serve self-sufficiency standards that don't apply to the necessity of interdependence in the disabled community. Having a tool that was tailored to work specifically for my needs was and is life-changing. Armed with granular information that reacted to minute changes in my financial landscape, empowered my ability to gain control and plan for these shifts to happen. Predicting changes gave me just the advantage I needed to see when, how, and where to tweak what I could to carve out more stability. And it helped me see far enough into my near future to understand exactly what my household needed to thrive. I would need to, at the very least, quintuple my income to make it past the most dangerous cliffs that manifest from Florida's specific set of safety net rules. And if that sounds like a daunting target to aim for, I can confirm for you that it is. As I explored the challenges I faced with the SSI program, I learned deeply about systemic issues I knew existed all across the safety net system, but I had not understood my relationship to them before. I learned that the privilege I experienced as a white woman and the advantages of appearing able-bodied, heteronormative, neurotypical, and educated, despite being none of those in reality, means my success with using these programs is by intrinsic design, even if it wasn't easy for me to achieve personally. Black and Indigenous people of color, members of the LGBTQIA community, people with disclosed or visible disabilities, and those whose language or demeanor does not meet standardized expectations of professionalism and formality, all experience complexities and hardships while navigating the safety net, because it is both directly and indirectly made to resist, oppose, mischaracterize, or deny their humanity. Often spoken of as a monolith, our safety net is instead made up of patchwork and piecemeal policy strung together by shoestring budgets, propped up by the careworn, the long-suffering, and the compassion-fatigued. Supplemental security income's own history provides us with a glaring example of how an urgent need for change in policy can persist for decades without any resolution. In 1992, a panel of experts convened to address modernization issues. Despite their recommendations spurring a flurry of committee meetings and congressional hearings, few and certainly none of the most necessary changes have ever been made. Even now, hopeful bills to address these issues make their way into committees, then languish there from one legislative session to the next. Our systems of care and support are broken, not just in theory, but in actual fact that negatively impacts the lives of our most vulnerable every single day. And it worsens measurably every single day change is not made. Awareness isn't enough. We must acknowledge these issues are present in every act we take while engaging with the safety net. Learn about the safety net issues specific to your state or your municipality. Work your way up from community waivers attached to the state plans that tailor federal laws like the Social Security Act into that region-specific language. Build conversation and coalition around these plain facts of the matter. In the coming months, I'm looking for help developing a community-led and fed civic library, discussion space, and regular support group style meetings for safety net recipients or those who are in need of the safety net but cannot access it adequately or at all due to these broken and outdated policies. Reach out if you're interested in learning more. You can find me on Slack or reneejoywrites@gmail.com and on Twitter. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are really appreciative of you bringing this here. Renee, definitely check out the chat once you're.
Yeah, I'm like in a whole moment right now. How do I like stop? Do I stop sharing? How do I get to things?
I think I can. There you go. We've got 6 minutes left for question dialogue.
Yeah, I'm trying to look through the chat now. I might have to come back to things like later or like, yeah. Or have help pointing things out to me in particular.
I'll note that I put this in the discourse post with the link to slides and notes and put Renee's contact in there to contact her. So I guess one question is, how can we help?
Just as I said, learn what those community waivers are, because the Social Security Act is that federal law. Every state then adopts a state plan. So that's the state's version of the federal law. And then from there, they tack on waivers and different little pieces and bits. It's all very modular that way. So I would say just crawl into your city, county, state level documents. I mean, I I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to some of the things I share on the random channel on Discord, but yeah, I spend a lot of time reading really dry legal documents, and it's amazing what you find. So I just encourage doing the homework.
You know, I guess I always think that every problem has a database as a solution. That's sort of just where my brain goes. Is it possible we could do something where, you know, one is stepped through, you know, what state are you in? What are your conditions? What are factors that are contributing to the struggles that you're having? And, you know, we could construct something which guides somebody through the various hurdles that exist in some of the processes. I mean, it's 50 times, you know, so many different configurations of problems. Do you think that's even possible? Or?
It's a yes and no. I would say that there is very, you know, helping people figure out how to create a tailored tool for themselves, maybe even one-on-one or demographic by demographic, is much better than trying to figure out an all-call solution to something, because that's actually been what perpetuates these problems. We keep legitimizing these problems by ignoring their realities when we're trying to solve for groups of people. You need to get to know one person, see if you can help them develop a spreadsheet. And I'll be sharing more about that, you know, going forward. So, you know, I would say make it granular, make it one-on-one, make it personal. And that's how we learn how to scale accurately and appropriately.
That seems to me to very, like it echoes some of the other things I've been hearing from, in particular, the Code for America research team, who's been talking a lot about, like they did this trauma-informed research session the other day, and have been writing about it more. And it feels very related to me, like this idea that there are these individual experiences, and as technologists, we have a tendency to normalize data or try to make everything unified and consistent and identical. And I don't know how to where do we find that balance of like producing solutions that can scale, but that also do address that individual level. Like I almost don't want to say this because I feel like but I actually wonder if like AI or machine learning kind of tools might at some stage, if applied appropriately, huge caveat, might be useful in some way, some application. I don't know, but that's sort of more of a theoretical, I think, question.
Well,
but
and that's where I
just
agree.
feel,
Yeah, I agree that we learn that from finding, you know, we create tools not for these vulnerable populations. There's no money in making tools for safety net recipients to figure out how to stabilize their welfare. I mean, it exists, but it's usually to push them off of welfare and get them back into work as fast as possible, which is not inclusive for the disabled community.
yeah.
And it ignores a lot of the complications. Like, it doesn't matter how much money you earn if you're on Social Security income, if the income disregard hasn't changed in decades. I mean, people used to be able to earn up to 40% of their benefit amount before their benefit was reduced. Today it's 8%, and that's going to keep shrinking. So it doesn't matter what tech. So yeah, you know, but I learned about this by building tech for myself. So that's what I encourage everyone else to do. Go build it for one person and learn about that one person's problem. It's going to teach you and open up the door to what is so for everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
I'll
guys.
pitch that Renee is hosting a conversation on Sunday with Amy Jo Hutchison, and I'll share the YouTube on Amy, one of the speeches that Amy Jo gave to Congress on raising the poverty eligibility limit. And so Renee and Amy Jo are having a conversation. That's Sunday's keynote. So definitely tune into that. I just made the discourse a wiki, so you can go ahead and edit that and we can continue there. Thank you so much. Next up, let me look at our newly updated schedule with descriptions on here. We've got 2 more to go, right on time. We've got, I think, Flint, do you want to go next? This is the human intelligence, artificial intelligence, and public
Yes.
participation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. These projects are oh, host. Can I get screen sharing? All these projects are so cool. I just want to like quit my job and maybe join like 16 different like hack projects, right? Wish I could help everybody. All right, there we go. Screen 2, and we're off. Everybody see that fine? Of course, it decided to move everything else around. So I want to talk to you guys about collaborative intelligence. And I've heard this term used a number of different ways. Primarily, it can mean like AI that's helping do different collaborative needs. So getting people to work together or how to connect people. But I've also seen it used in this case with like human intelligence and artificial intelligence, and how do you leverage those two. And we're really going to go over some background first about how that really applies to what we do, making software and the state of intelligence. And then we'll get into how that works with public participation here in Atlanta, and what we're doing with the city council. It all starts with, what is intelligence? What are humans good at? And you may have heard of like Bloom's taxonomy. This was developed early 50s. It was updated as recently as like 2009. It's still a very good way to look at what are humans good at. And this recall of information down here, this knowledge piece, listing, locating, naming, this is stuff that we can get computers to do relatively well. But as we go up this pyramid, it becomes a much bigger challenge, because it's tacit knowledge that we can't even explain to each other how we do it. Like, what is your exact mental process? Unless you've got a really rational way of going through things, it can be very difficult how to say, well, this is how I did my analysis, this is how I synthesized some new information. What approaches do you take? And this is stuff that's very hard for us to get computers to do. By the way, there's also, Bloom developed 2 other ones, if you haven't heard of his other taxonomies, that are also very cool for the other domains, for how we're good at emotion, and also how we're good at recognizing set and where we're at and different things within our world. That's another place that we really see a struggle to achieve with artificial intelligence. With artificial intelligence, just circling back again, it's that explicit knowledge that isn't tacit knowledge, the knowledge that we can program in, these models that we can make, these metrics, these categorizing. We can really leverage artificial intelligence to do a very good job there. Computers are good at that. They still have trouble when you get into any of this tacit know-how or tacit meaning. It can be very difficult. When we look at the types of artificial intelligence, and this is actually a pretty limited view, a lot of people think of machine learning when you think of AI. There are so many more avenues that are AI and that are applying that intelligence that we see within humans and getting computers to do what are really human tasks. I even think of it like the word intelligence is pretty much defined by what we do as humans. Humans do intelligent things. So that kind of intelligence there, we're going to focus on in this project is, my specialty is NLP and speech. And, we're using Otter today. We actually use Otter in our program. We've also been exploring linking up with IBM Watson for speech recognition. The speech to text, it still has a lot of problems. We'll get more into that. I founded a company that does natural language processing. We do information extraction, classification, clustering, and all trying to make this whole piece of how do you take unstructured text and make sense of it with artificial intelligence and machines. The first example of where you see a crossover between a machine and a human is way back. This originally it was actually more of a scam. The Mechanical Turk. The story of this is this guy made an automata that was able to be basically puppeted by a man inside a box. And people were amazed at what this automata could do. They were tricked, but really there was just a guy on the inside that was doing all the work. And this actually lives on today, and we'll talk about how this applies to the project with Amazon's Mechanical Turk, which is a program that says, let's abstract this human intelligence task, these human capable tasks behind an API so you can integrate it with your software. We didn't actually end up using Mechanical Turk for our project because the Mechanical Turk itself is really structured around pricing, trying to get people to do things for a fraction, literally nickel and dime out simple human tasks that people can come along and do, maybe image recognition, things like that. We wanted to create something that was very like that, but was for volunteers, for something that would attract volunteers to be able to give us that kind of participation and help us with that human intelligence piece that adds so much. When you start to design software that brings the two of these together, you bring in the AI, you bring in the human intelligence, you get this collaborative intelligence. The humans are there to help augment what the machines can do. They're there to sustain it. They're going to keep feeding it new problems, feeding it new data. They're there to help explain it. So even with the best reporting and metrics, you always need executive summaries. You need to put a human lens onto things. The AI, however, is doing its part. It's able to interact with humans and display things in new ways that we wouldn't be able to compute ourselves. Same with amplifying, and really the automating piece is what's so huge, because we can get to a state where things are happening much faster. So with all that in mind, the Atlanta City Council in the past, you would be able to go down to City Council in their charter. You could stand in line and you would have 2 minutes to talk to them, or maybe even 5 minutes to state your case about some issue that you had. When COVID hit, that had to change. They no longer wanted people there in person, and it opened up new avenues for them to be open to change, which we can struggle so much getting governments to be open to new change. We really were able to capitalize on that opportunity. And they started having people call in and leave voicemails. Pretty soon they were overrun with voicemails, and it became quite a bit of an issue for them of like, how do we actually consume all of these? Because instead of having 5 people that show up on the agenda at each meeting, they could be getting thousands of people calling in. There's so much value in what's happening there with the public participation. When you're getting that feedback, when you're having people call in, one of my favorite terms here is situated knowledge. It's the knowledge that a community has about what they care about. And you can bring in outside people, unless you're interacting with the people it's actually going to affect, you can't appropriately plan and serve those people. And it's so important within small government, but even larger government, to take that and have that public participation. So there's so many reasons that there's such good value in getting that other kind of collaborative intelligence as well, to get the group and hive mind to come together. We originally actually were notified that this was a problem because they said, hey, they've been having all these call-ins. This was actually happening when we were having some protests here in Atlanta during the Shared Books bill. And they were saying, man, there's so many people calling in. They were playing these voicemails till the wee hours of the morning, just keeping their city council meeting running all night. And the only way you could access them was to like watch a 14-hour-long YouTube video. Able to come in and make a partnership. Code for Atlanta stepped in. We worked, also were able to partner with the Center for Civic Innovation, who already has existing relationships with the council. So that was extremely important in helping us get access to staff, have access to the data, and really start to tackle this problem. Then for the automation piece and the AI piece and that NLP piece, QD has come in to help, and this is my company that I founded, and we're really excited to really bring NLP to the masses. That's really the charter there of QD, is make it super easy, not just for coders, not just another API, but something normal everyday people can get use out of unstructured text, get use out of doing this kind of thing. So it was a perfect fit for these voicemails and the types of data we had. So the way that it worked is this data came in, getting thousands of voicemails, and there's so many opinions and topics and concerns that we really needed to get out of that data. We used Otter AI to do the transcription, and that's what we're using today as well to transcribe these meeting notes. It was very quick to be able to do it, but we were getting a number of errors, and obviously you don't get any of that tacit knowledge. You're just getting transcripts. That was not really solving the bigger problem that people had and being able to consume all of the opinions that were being left by the community. Before we put this through the NLP, we created the kind of Mechanical Turk step where we have volunteers that can come in, correct the errors that we're still getting in transcription, extract some basic information. Who was speaking? Did they talk about being in a certain district? Did they have a clear intent for, were they calling to amend the budget? Were they calling in to keep the budget the way it is? What was their overall intent? Capture this data out of that to then feed in to a larger engine through QT to fully do NLP on the fully corrected transcribed text. So you get a lot higher veracity out of your data when you don't have errors in the transcription. So it was an important step to have that the volunteers have the ability to come in, tag, and it's great because it's a volunteering opportunity that only takes 5 minutes. It's something that you can drop in, do a couple of them. It's not a huge commitment. It doesn't take a whole lot of, if you can use a web browser, you've got an internet connection, you can participate, you can help out. The reports that we generate, we try to look at all of the topics that are brought out by this. We get all of the full transcripts. We also do some analysis where we find representative comments. So if you don't have the time to read through thousands of them, you can read through a few choice snippets that are really representing the topics that are coming up time and time again. And so we wanted to automate this process so that we can get voicemails come in one day, tag them that night and correct them, run it through this engine, and have it on the council member's desk the next day. And that's so important because it's for them to make better decisions, for them to actually be able to look at, okay, the people from my district are saying this thing, understanding them, being able to digest that, because this is something that they're doing on a daily basis now, where they need to be able to constantly understand these voicemails. So it saves them a lot of time and gets people a better lens. Additionally, the public has the ability to hold the council members accountable. They can say, look, this is clearly what was said. So we're looking for people to come in. If you check out atlscribes.org, you can find the tagger. You can help us tag some. We're going to be hosting a big Tagathon at the end of the month, really showcase all of the tools that we've built and get some things out to the council members overnight. So that'll be an exciting opportunity. I think it's probably going to happen on the 27th, but you can drop into atlscribes.org whenever, see the progress, check out the reports, download, see what we're talking about here in Atlanta. We do have a number of volunteer opportunities. There's more info about that on the website. We've got a small number of volunteers that have pushed through this MVP, but we really see the potential to spread this idea because Atlanta City Council is not the only ones having this problem. We really want to make sure that we can bring this as a solution for public comment in all kinds of contexts and at different levels of government. So if you're interested in doing this for your city council, maybe they have the same problem, maybe they're taking voicemails, maybe they're doing it a different way. I'd really like to learn about that. If anybody has any interest or involvement with your local city councils, that'd be great to learn some more as we try to expand. We have a WordPress plugin that can help you set up the tagger and an interface for your own council. We also want to make all of this data super accessible. So we're any kind of interest in that, we can also get you access to that as well. So if there are any questions, we have just a couple of minutes. And let me find the chat.
Can I unmute and just ask a question? Is the service, I'm sorry if I missed this, are you paid to do the service for the council, or is this something that you did as part of the brigade work?
So we're doing this right now for the council. So it's all open data and their staff has helped provide like the raw voicemails and things. Long term, we are trying to create an even better solution to automate more of this. We're working with Twilio and some of their opportunities. So at a certain point, some of that would become paid for their solution if we can figure out exactly what they want. But in the interim, we're getting the data out there, really whetting their appetite to see what can be done with these newer technologies.
Great. Flint, do you want to share your contact info in the chat when you get a chance?
Yeah.
This is great. I'd also note from the lightning talk that you all gave that the WordPress theme you're using was really slick and very accessible. Go check it out. All right. Thank you so much for presenting. And let's keep it going in the chat if you want.
I'd be happy to answer any questions after the fact too. If you want to find me on Slack, maybe a good way if you guys are already on Code for America, or feel free to shoot me an email. I don't want to go over time on this last person.
Great. Thanks so much. Do we have the presenter for the last one, which is building a platform to make housing navigation easier, I believe?
Yep, that's us.
Jonathan. Okay. Let me,
Sorry,
do you,
is mine not today anymore?
I would need to check. Did we mess that one up?
Did we update? Marian was, oh no, Marian was not able to make it today. So we switched Here's Ben to Saturday.
Oh, got it. Okay, so mine and Marian are different though, right? Or just.
Sorry. I think we gave your slot to Marian.
Oh, okay. So she's going to take my slot. Got it. Okay.
So you're off the hook.
Although if you wanted to record one, Ben, we could post it and share it. That'd be great. Sorry about that. So Jonathan, let me give you co-host.
Cool. Thank you, everybody. I'll share the link to our slides and then I'll share my screen. We are, I'm John Kropka. I'm presenting today with Adam Lutz, who is our project manager. And we're Code for Charlottesville. And so we just want to tell you about the project that we've been taking on during quarantine. So building a platform to make housing navigation easier, subtitle, What We Did During Quarantine. We are focused on the problem of housing navigation. Housing navigation is helping somebody find a place to live that meets their needs. There are, when somebody comes in to an organization and asks for help, they might need help finding a place to live that meets their income, that will help them pass a credit check or won't have a draconian credit check sort of situation. Something that could accept a place to live that would accept a voucher if they have access to a particular government voucher. Accessibility, if a person has geographic requirements or has a disability, something like that. Criminal background checks, and then other things that like pets, right? All of these things end up being barriers to people so that they can't just go on to Zillow or whatever and find a place to live. There are at least 6 different organizations in Charlottesville that are already doing the work of housing navigation. Our main partners on this is the Charlottesville City Government's Office of Human Rights. The Office of Human Rights has a really large mission, but what they end up doing is spending 90% of their time on housing navigation. So they asked us to help because if we can make the work of housing navigation easier and if we can make it faster, then not only does it improve the chances of actually placing somebody in a place to live, but it frees up the Office of Human Rights to focus on other issues as well. Housing navigation is really difficult. It's difficult because it requires the navigator, the person working for city government or for a nonprofit, it requires a navigator to build relationships with property owners in town, to gain their trusts, and to learn about their restrictions on tenants. Every one of these organizations, there was Habitat for Humanity, there were local housing alliances, there was a homeless shelter. All of these different navigators were doing this work on their own, building these relationships on their own, and compiling a list. The way it was a couple of years ago, they were telling us was there was like one 10-year-old Xerox list of phone numbers, and they would just give people, when they came into the office asking for help, they would just give people a copy of that list and say, go call these numbers. And clearly that didn't work so great, right? So each one of these organizations has their own contacts, but it's not that many people, especially in a small town like Charlottesville, and it ends up with a lot of duplication. So like if I'm a navigator, I'm always going to be calling the same people over and over. So what we're building is a system to improve housing navigation. We're calling it the Housing Hub. It's a web app for navigators. It's not public facing, it's for the navigators. It's going to enable them to enter and store their data on their contacts with property owners, including who in town is enforcing what restrictions in terms of credit and acceptance of vouchers and things like that. The Housing Hub is designed to be shared across all of these different agencies between the city government and the county government and all the different nonprofits in town. It has a back-end database and a front end that we're trying to build up to be very intuitive for the housing navigators. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Adam Lutz, our volunteer and project manager on this.
Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So what we've done so far, we began the development and recruitment process in early this year prior to everything kind of shutting down. We had a large group of volunteers in the beginning, which as I'm sure most of you know, when recruiting volunteers, that seems to sort of peter off as the months go on. We ended up going completely Zoom in April due to restrictions for public meeting spaces and whatnot. And we've continued to do weekly meetings as far as development goes every Tuesday for about an hour plus, depending on what it is we need to get done that week and what it is we're trying to push on our GitHub. And we're still continuing doing those meetings weekly to this day. Next slide. The project status is currently, so we opted for a serverless database, and a lot of the reasoning, and I'm just going to say this straight out, a lot of the reasoning we decided to build the application in certain ways was primarily because we wanted as little maintenance as possible after we've deployed the application and we've released the MVP to the Housing Hub community. So we went with a serverless database. We've developed the backend APIs, and we're still working on wiring up the front end to those APIs to get all the information out of the database and onto the page for the user to interact with and update. We have the ability to create new users. We have a sign-in page, the main landing page, an ability to add new properties to the database, along with alter those property components. And we're still working on getting the numbers for our pagination, but the actual pagination is there and populating it is possible. And our UX team has been working very hard to get the front end up and running. What still needs to be done is the ability to delete properties from the database once you've added them. That's something we've been working on, and it's taking its time, but it's getting along. And then also to create new users with secure links so that they have their own, what's called a JWT token. They have their own sort of sign-in process and can continue to have the same one each time they sign in. Next slide. This here is a current look of the main page for the application. As you can see, you have your pretty straightforward search fields on the left-hand side to filter out any properties that have been added to the database that don't have the required fields that you're looking for in your specific case, being a navigator. You also have your search bar at the top where you can search for keywords and phrases. If you want to get a little more detailed, your add property buttons down there to add a new property. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward, I guess. Next slide.
Okay, thanks. I'll take it from here. So we're getting close to our MVP. We still have a lot of work to do, but I just want to note, like, housing navigation is something that happens everywhere. You know, when you think about housing crises, there are many ways to address that through policy, But one powerful way to address that is to link up people who need a place to live with people who own property who want to help. One of the things we learned in doing this work, meeting a number of landlords in town, there are people who want to help, who want to rent to people who are on voucher programs and want to do their part and just want some guidance on how to do that. A housing hub to make the work of navigation easier. It can go a long way towards improving the relationships between navigators and landlords by making these matches more directly, by cutting down on the number of times any one property owner gets contacted by navigators. And so we just threw our GitHub up there, just, once we're done, if any brigades out there are interested in starting up a housing hub of their own, here's how to get started. So thank you very much. And
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to hear any questions you have.
I wonder if we could allow Renee to either type in here, or if you feel like speaking one of the questions out loud here. Because she's got a couple.
Yeah,
I just wanted to say I'm really excited about any efforts like this. And yeah, I'm not sure if you see the questions that I have in the chat there. But yeah,
I can answer some of the ones you asked in the chat.
Yeah.
So are there any local laws about protecting low-income recipients? Up until this past year, it was completely legal for property owners to discriminate on the basis of source of payment.
Right.
So there were many property owners who would refuse to rent to anybody on a voucher of any kind. That has recently been made illegal, although I think there's still some ambiguity. In the most recent session of state government, it was made illegal. I think there's some ambiguity about enforcement.
Right.
So things are changing in Virginia.
Okay.
And we're trying to just sort of, it's hard to know exactly, where we stand with that, and we'll have to think about making changes to the housing hub. Well, one of the things we've done is we've put a greater emphasis on like a general notes field for navigators to share notes with each other. So as things change, they can, like the notes, it doesn't have to conform to any kind of legal system.
Sure. Just on that note, actually, if you don't mind me interjecting like a follow-up question, is it the practice, either with you or with the housing navigators that you work for, are they currently taking information from recipients, as in like reviews of the landlords and places that they're living in? Because that's also information that's often missing in the housing navigation for low-income recipients, is whether or not a landlord is trustworthy, or property management is trustworthy. Are there bed bugs? Is it, there's a lot. And I would just like to see a little more reciprocation between that relationship happening.
Yeah, for sure. It's something that the navigators have told us about, like that they want this system not just to filter down on the restrictions in their search, but to also get a sense of, is this an actual safe and good place for the person to live?
Right.
Yeah, so we are listening very closely to the working group of navigators that we meet with, and we're trying to set the fields in order to make it exactly what they want to know. And a lot of those things are about, is this a trustworthy landlord? Is this a good property?
Right. And now, what are your reasons currently for it not being a public facing? Is that more just technical, or is it?
It's because the navigators want to be able to share information with each other that they don't really want to share publicly, because they feel it would damage your relationship with the landlords.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but that does still keep data away from the community it concerns, correct? I mean, is that just sort of like a byproduct of what's happening?
Yes, it does. It's
Okay.
entirely controlled by the navigators.
Right.
But that's not just one organization. It's
Understood.
it's a
Right.
network.
Sure. And then I'm just looking at what so I did see on the slide that you screen for income. Does that mean you're screening for income requirements, like whether the landlord requires 2.5 times the rent and income or 3 times the income? Okay, cool. And then do you see the affordablehousingonline.com link I mentioned here in the chat? They somehow have an automated list of open and closing waiting lists and stuff. I have found them to be very useful, but I'm not sure, I don't know how to vouch for them as a service provider. You know, they seem to operate beneath a veil of some kind. But if you're not familiar with them, they are still very useful. And so, yes, and thanks. And so I would just encourage maybe looking at what they're doing to just see if there's anything duplicatable there.
Thank you very much. I will look into that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciated you sharing all of this work.
Thank you, everybody. And we're going to do a quick exit. This same account is going to be used for the big room for community design thinking. So we'll end this one and head on over to the main room. And there's also Keynote going on right after that at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much.